Cynthia is one of the very few that's fortunate enough. She's in a medical respite center, a housing unit that is for people experiencing homelessness.
I'm thankful, being blessed. A lot of people out there fighting to help me get this fresh start, and I want to make it happen myself.
You know, there are these studies that look at what you would expect from someone in their 70s and 80s in terms of their memory or their ability to walk or how often they fall, things like that. And what we found was that the folks in their early 50s who were homeless really looked like people in their 70s and 80s in the general population. So many of the folks that we study who are homeless have paid into the Social Security system their whole lives. They're not going to live long enough to be able to draw that money back out. I think we've left our older adults without a safety net. And we've done so just at the time where we have this calamitous housing situation where there's not enough housing.
I got sick and had to leave the carnival show I worked for, which I worked for 30 years. And when I got here, the apartment I got, it just ate through my savings, and I ended up I went to the women's mission, wasn't there 45 minutes, I had to leave. Another homeless lady was trying to get up on my bed and steal my dirty clothes, and it woke me up, and I lost my temper, and I'm one of them people, I'm not staying there where I'm gonna end up getting in trouble, where I'm somewhere trying to get help. So I got my stuff and I left, and I went out in the woods and made me a camp.
From what I've seen over the years, especially when I was working in community pharmacy, I would often see patients of mine that were most likely living on the street. And I know that, you know, just taking care of your medication all on its own, when you have all of the proper resources to store them and make sure that you're able to keep up with them, like that's hard enough on its own. And then if you add in the complexity of trying to manage all of that while also not having a home, that's something that, you know, where I was working at a pharmacy that was in sort of a low income area, I often saw my patients walking up and down the streets when I would be leaving the pharmacy. So it's one of those things that you start to, you see them as people because you know them from the pharmacy, but then, you know, otherwise I don't know that that's the way people see folks when they're walking up and down the street.
I deal with this daily. It's wet sometimes, and you know, it's not always the best circumstances, but it's better than where I just come from. But now, since we've been here at City Roads, and with our caseworkers, we have starting to get a helping hand here.
Well, we had lost our home to a fire. And,
yeah, we had a home and we lost a fire.
My husband David almost lost his life in that fire. He had smoke inhalation and was hospitalized for several days. Things never really got back financially right after that. And when he lost the use of his leg, we moved in with our good friend, who, when he passed, and we were basically just out in the street. And I mean,
and I literally told to get out of the house, and she rolled me down the street.
Does that help any?
It always helps.
A little bit?
Yeah.
You know, whether people were first homeless before 50 or after 50, there was trauma that led to their homelessness. People don't choose to be homeless.
Well, I was a barber for about 22 years in Old Hickory, and we had some tragedy, quite a bit of tragedy when we lost our first child. He was 19, his name was Patrick, and he drowned in a swimming accident in 2012. It was really hard on us all. I lost the ability to even go back to work at the time, so that was the beginning of the end, really, so to speak. In 2020, in April, we lost our daughter, Ashley Nicole, to an accidental fentanyl overdose. She was a beautiful young woman. She was 14 months older than her brother, who tragically 14 months later committed suicide himself. Austin took his life after his sister. So we have Jessica Lynn remaining, and bless her heart, she's also having a very difficult time with things.
I'm sorry.
I decided to join the Unity Housing Board because I think it's our duty as neighbors to make sure that our community has access to stable and dignified housing, and that allows everybody to thrive, including ourselves.
So in that particular case, Terry's husband, David, was in a wheelchair, he was handicapped, and our facility is not handicap accessible. We wish we had an elevator to the 3rd floor, we don't. And so because there were no other housing options in Nashville that would work for him, we chose to allow him to pitch a tent on our property so that he could be in close proximity to her. In their case, I think they both were starting to look at physical limitations and just the whole reality of getting older. And we're like, yeah, something's got to change.
So I know he's down there, I know he's safe, and it's kind of romantic.
After living in the New Orleans area for about a decade, I saw firsthand how severe the homeless situation can get and what its impact is on the rest of the community. When me and my family moved back to the Tri-Cities, we were pretty caught off guard at how dramatic the increase was in the unhoused population in the area. So I wanted to become involved in any way, shape, and form to do my part to help alleviate that situation and get those less fortunate in our community back on their feet, and Unity Housing was a great opportunity to do that.
People often think that homelessness is about substance use. It's about drug problems, alcohol problems, mental health problems. But that is not what causes a region or an area to have more homelessness. You go to a state like West Virginia, a state I know and I love, West Virginia does really poorly on measures of mental health and substance use. They have some of the lowest homelessness in the country. Why? They don't have a lot of pressure on their housing markets. If you look at what drives homelessness, what drives rates of homelessness, it's explainable by the amount of housing you have for your extremely low-income households.
You doing okay? Yeah. I had my gallbladder removed last Friday, and then I had to go back to camp on Saturday to sleep in a tent because I had nowhere else to be. And then early Monday morning, I had a severe pain that went across the whole top of my stomach, and it knocked me on my knees. I was so scared to death because you don't know what you're facing out there. With just having the surgery, I'm sore, and I can't really move to protect myself very good. It's hard. I mean, you never know what kind of germs you're going to pick up out there anyway, as it is. And then when you got stitches and stuff in you, it's easy to pick up anything anywhere. It hurts to be sent out when you're hurting and they can obviously see that you're in pain. And they're just like, well, you gotta go. You can't stay here. I'm like, well, the only place I got to go is in the woods. Now I'm out here and I'm wounded. I'm very sore. If somebody was to come in and try to attack, I couldn't help protect against nothing right now.
Housing is the first step, you know? People have to be housed. It's a basic need, it's a human right. And if they're not housed, then nothing else can fall into place. They'll just stay in this cycle of poverty. When Unity Housing completes this facility, it's going to give people the space to heal in a dignified way. You know, I can't even imagine, leaving the hospital and coming back to a place, an encampment. You know, so it's going to, I think, fill the gap that is missing in the community currently, and it's going to be a space where people can come together and be in community with one another as they're healing themselves.
I think that no region of this country is immune to homelessness.
I'm down because I've been working on getting housing for like 4 months now. And the Section 8 people, it takes so long for them to get back with you that you know, you get excited at first, okay, I'm on the list, here we go. But then it's still nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna end up spending the winter out here and being cold and freezing to death because I don't have what it takes to be out here.
While Cynthia worries about the coming cold, a more immediate threat emerges and puts her in jeopardy once again.
The doctor called me this morning. The infection from my gallbladder, I guess, got into my blood. And I gotta be in the hospital for 2 days to get antibiotics to cure it up.
And to complicate matters, her dog Sassy can't stay in the hospital.
I have nobody to take care of her for 2 days so I can get these antibiotics that I need. I had to give her up. There's nobody to keep her for me. And I have no way of getting her back. Come here, baby.
This is just really emblematic of just what types of struggles people go through when they're disconnected from the community and they don't have insurance. Imagine if she had been in housing and she had neighbors that she knew and she had a family that could support her and she had health insurance. The story's totally different. And she's not the only person like that out there. There's so many people like that out there.
For me, the vision of Unity Housing being a completed project and what it's going to look like when it's all fully developed really involves patients having a place to truly heal after they've had a hospital stay especially, and really give them a place to get back on their feet as quickly as possible, but also while providing a lot of compassion and dignity to the patients.
Just hours before Cynthia was released from the hospital, the contributor was able to find her a place in a medical respite called Village at Glencliff.
I think it's amazing that they have places like this that help people. It's a little hard without Sassy because I'm used to her being at my side all the time. But she's with a good family that's taking care of her right now, so I can take care of my health and I can get better because without me being better, I'm not good for her.
Cynthia is one of the very few that's fortunate enough. She's in a medical respite center, a housing unit that is for people experiencing homelessness, but there's like 11 of those units. And she's there as transitional housing until she goes into permanent housing. And you know, the problem they have is because there's not enough permanent housing that many people end up staying there, right? So those units aren't available for other people being released from the hospital.
Being unhoused is nothing short of catastrophic. To survive, we need shelter. It keeps us safe, dry, warm, and well. That's powerful medicine. And while it doesn't come cheap, we simply can't afford to go without it.
I want to thank you all for coming tonight. This is a huge event for us, being the first big fundraiser.
We are 100% reliant on your contributions to get this resource off the ground.
As an organization, Unity Housing needs support from the rest of our community.
We want to create the area's first medical respite facility.
Think hard about what you're able to contribute in ways that you can help support Unity Housing. And if that is through making a donation, that's great. If it's through participating in our silent auction, that's great. Obviously you're here, so we really appreciate that. But anything you can do to help support Unity Housing, especially financially, is going to be instrumental in us getting this off the ground as quickly as possible.